Now comes the really, really fun part of the evening.
Yeah.
I get to invite up Rebecca Ebner to do the, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Well, put some table topics on the fly. Tell me about a vegetable
You can,
you've
yeah, you
marinated.
can invite me up. And I'll ask her for the timing.
Okay, sorry, jump ship, jump row. Our table topic master today will be Martin Gowecki. Martin.
Sounds like Doug wants to jump the gun, I think is the one that you were looking for, but wow, really good speeches, guys. Those were really fun. As we let the emotions and thoughts of those marinate in our heads, I think we'll talk about something that doesn't really get marinated very often, which are vegetables, and that's the theme of the day today. So our first question is going to be the easy one, and it's going to go to Britta. Which is your favorite vegetable to eat?
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. I love vegetables. Oopsie. I do, and as a child, we were forced, of course, to eat our vegetables, which we did not care for then. However, over time, I've acquired a taste for vegetables. And if you ask me what my favorite vegetable is, I'm going to say Brussels sprouts. And that might shock you. Because if you boil the heck out of a Brussels sprout, it stinks, okay? It smells. That's how my mom used to make them. However, she would douse them in cheese sauce. But now, fast forward today. Guess how they're doing Brussels sprouts now? Tossing them in olive oil, chopping bacon, throwing in some cherries, dried cherries, and baking them in the oven. Okay, so no more cheese sauce, but now we got bacon. And man, it's delicious. So you take those Brussels sprouts, trim off the end, cut them in half, toss with the olive oil, make sure you salt it. Kosher salt would be good. Chop up your bacon, little pieces. And even the cherries, the dried cherries, you want to chop those up small too. Toss it together, roast it in the oven, 30 minutes. Delicious. Thank you. I was trying to run away.
I think she's already going to make those. I'll have to try that. And you said cherry tomatoes or cherries?
Oh, I'm sorry, dried cherries.
Oh,
so
okay.
you dice it up small
Oh, okay.
and toss with the diced bacon.
That's interesting.
It's
Dried
really
fruit.
delicious.
Oh, okay.
You've had it, right?
And I'm sorry I forgot to ask for the timing parameters. But you knew what you were doing, so
Yes.
congrats. Thank you.
I can give them, yes. For
Yeah.
table topics, each speaker will have 1 to 2 minutes to respond. I will show green at 1 minute, yellow at 1.5 minutes, and red at 2 minutes with 30 seconds to qualify.
Thank you very much. Now that I think Britta's adequately sort of prepared our palate, my next question is about taste. So there are different tastes that you can have and that you can sense: salty, sweet, umami, all these other good things. So which of these is your favorite taste, Rebecca?
To repeat the question, which of these is my favorite taste? Salty, sweet, or umami?
Or any of the
Or
other,
bitter.
sour, bitter, whatever.
That is a great question. I would have to say salty. And it's funny because I have heard that if you have cravings for certain food groups, it means that you have a nutritional deficiency. And if you crave salt, this means that you have a deficiency in minerals, one or more, which I suppose makes sense. I don't know, that's my perhaps excuse for eating half a bag of Lay's potato chips because they are the best. Although I love pairing them with orange juice. It's sweet and it's salty. Funny story about this. When I was swimming in college, I suddenly was swimming really fast my sophomore year, and my coaches were like, what have you been doing differently? Like, we had you last year, you were training, you're doing all the same thing. What are you eating? And all that I could think was every night I would go home after practice, of course, after dinner, after eating for like an hour straight, and I would pour out like half a bag of Lay's potato chips and also pair that with orange juice. Is that my phone? So I told my coaches this. I said, well, I eat a lot of Lay's potato chips and orange juice. And their response was, that's disgusting. You need to stop. Though, to this day, I credit it for my success. And I'd have to say that salty is my favorite taste.
Awesome. Thank you. I think the right response to pairing Lay's potato chips with orange juice is that's disgusting. So I think you're Our next question is about something that is very closely related to vegetables, being vegetarian. Doug, would you be able to survive on a vegetarian diet?
Fellow Toastmasters, to be politically correct and a vegetarian, or to be a vegetarian for your own wellness, two specifically different subjects. And I'm going to speak to both of them in very short order. My son-in-law, nice man, type O blood type. And if you're familiar with the blood type diets, type O's require real protein and lots of it. Now, that doesn't mean you can't get it from vegetables, but you have to have a dominant protein in your diet. My son-in-law, he did it because he wanted to be politically correct. So he went on this very atypical vegan, vegetarian diet, and his health started to deteriorate because he wasn't getting enough protein. So the fact of the matter is that I have this same blood type. It's occurred to me that I could be a vegetarian, except for one small problem. I enjoy savory, I do eat bacon, and there's something called roast beef that goes in anything and makes it just fine. If you have onions that are grilled and mushrooms and a steak, and then you can pair that with your marinade, and life is good. Oh, the only thing that's missing, fellow Toastmasters, is a glass of red wine. Thank you.
I've never heard of roast beef going with everything. I don't know how it would fit with ice cream.
Wait, what's ice cream?
I may have to try that one day. Thank you, Doug. Our next question is the hardest one that I came up with, and it's going to go to Aaron, because I know he's the man. Convince us to eat more or fewer vegetables. Your pick, but you gotta convince us.
First, I have to let that question marinate for a while. It's a serious topic. But I've gathered it now. Now I'm going to tell you guys something. I really want to persuade you to eat more vegetables. Okay? Because even if you don't really like vegetables, I have found out recently, well, a couple of years ago, when I was dating my ex-girlfriend who had lupus, and she could not eat meat. She was on the Dr. Sebi diet, and I don't know if any of you are familiar with it, but you have to rid yourself of all mucus. I mean, you can't have any dairy. It's a very small list of things you can have. But one of the things that she could have were mushrooms and certain vegetables that I have never heard of, but whatever, she made them very tastily. Tastily? That's not a word, but tasty wouldn't have been okay either. And so what I find that almost anything that you do, I mean, any vegetables, you can marinate it and to have a consistency of any type of meat. I found that you could essentially grill mushrooms until they're a burger. I found that you could do Brussels sprouts into where they're almost crunchy, almost like I don't know, a little crunch ball, but it's very, very tasty.
With bacon.
I do not eat bacon. Bacon is the devil to me. But no, serious. I don't eat bacon, or import. But you can replace the bacon with some cabbage. You can cut it out just like bacon. And now let's think about it. How many of you have had meat with absolutely zero seasoning? Is it tasty? Exactly. So what that shows is that it's really the seasoning of the meat. It's really how you marinate it, how savory you make it. And I challenge you to try that now on vegetables, and you'll see just how much is actually replaced just by the seasoning, and you won't even miss the meat. Marinate. That's it.
Good job. Thanks for that. So we have talked about some of these. One thing that Aaron brought up is actually something I was going to bring up. Mushrooms. Are mushrooms a vegetable? Because they're technically a fungus, so they don't really fit into the vegetable group, but we categorize them as vegetables. Tomatoes. Technically a fruit, although in 1983 there was a Supreme Court ruling on the case of like an actual tariff that was going to be put in to reduce the price of tomatoes, and they ruled them to be a vegetable even though they technically acknowledged that it was a fruit. So that was the reason that whole confusion comes about. So there are all these controversies about what things are rated which thing. Does that even matter, Rick? Do we care?
Do we care? I think not. Because I believe that based on, as you explained, courts have ruled one way and then they've ruled the other way. It really depends on who's talking. So, and you probably know this over the years, if you've paid any attention, politics or whatever, people have a way of convincing you that they're right and that their way is the only way. So therefore, as long as someone can give a good argument, you can choose to believe it or not to believe it, and you could choose to go with it, or you could say, that's not what I believe, and you could come up with even a third idea. So, in speaking that way, I would think that, let's go back to your mushrooms, because you brought that up in the beginning, and I think they're the best vegetable that you could have that's marinated. Or you could marinate on vegetables and think that, oh, the mushroom's the best one. Yes, it is a fungus. However, I don't usually think of funguses. So,
Fungi.
fungi.
Sorry.
Thank you. Except there is another fungi, a truffle, but then again, that may be in the mushroom family. I'm not really sure, but since I passed my time, I'm okay. Thank you.
Oh man, Britta, I almost had it. It was an improper grammar usage. And, man,
Sorry.
this whole page is really blank, guys. I mean, I gotta catch you on something. All right, our last question is gonna be for Quanice. Something that is related to the word vegetables, but may not necessarily relate to the products themselves, is vegging out, which means relaxing. What do you like to do when you veg out?
Just as important as vegetables are, I truly, truly believe vegging out is an essential part of life. Everyone, most people, I should say, have their moments. Even if you're the most energetic person, bouncing around everywhere, always on the go, it is important to just chill out sometimes. My preferred way of vegging out is is anyone familiar with a papasan? A papasan chair? It's a wicker bottom and a very, very plush cushioned cushion. And it's a very big cushion. So I actually have a double papasan. It's not the smaller one, it's the larger one, and I can just lay out. I'm not a TV person. So I don't need TV or movies. I can just lay there and just do nothing. So I think that is the quintessential vegging out. Absolutely not doing anything at all. So that's what I do to veg out.
Thank you. All right, everyone. Thank you for humoring me. And with that, I would like to give it back to our Toastmaster, Mr. Doug Field.
Thank you, Martin.
So it was a pleasure.